Hello everyone, how are you? Today we're gonna finish animating this building. We've modeled everything already and we've animated most of the objects. So today we're gonna animate the windows and ease all the animations so the motion of the objects looks even better. Let's begin. We're gonna start by animating the front window frames. First, we need to change the origin, so in Edit Mode, select the bottom face, Shift S, cursor to selected and back to Object Mode, Origin to 3D cursor. Let's disable both array modifiers to focus on animating only one frame. Go to frame 62 and set a location and rotation keyframe. Let's open up this channels group, and now in frame 47, rotate the frame on the x-axis and move it down on the local Z axis. So press Shift and then press the Z key 2 times to switch to the object's local axis and set a location and rotation keyframe. Now in frame 50, move it again on the local Z axis, but move it up this time. And now move it down on the global Z axis until the frame looks aligned with the wall opening. Set a location and rotation keyframe. Let's move this keyframe one frame. Go to frame 52 and lock all the rotation keyframes and move the location keyframes that are in frame 51. Let's unlock the keyframes and duplicate the final keyframes and take them to frame 57. And now in frame 60, lock the location keyframes and move the rotation keyframes that we just duplicated. Let's see. And here we have the overall animation. And let's see a few subtle variations. You could move these rotation keyframes to frame 55, for example. Let's see. I'm gonna make some touch-ups to this keyframe, move it up a bit on the local Z-axis, move it on the Y-axis to take it a bit closer to the building, and remember to set a location keyframe. Let's see. And now in frame 59, move it on the Y-axis to the inside of the building and set a location keyframe. That's one way to get a bounce effect. I'm gonna delete this keyframe to show you something different. In frame 57, I'm gonna move it outwards on the Y-axis and set a location keyframe. See the difference? Let's move the final keyframe one frame. And we can delete the final rotation keyframes since they have the same values as the previous keyframes. Now if we enable the array modifiers, the animation looks off because the bottom frames have their origin right here and not at the bottom like the top frames. So let's fix that. Apply the modifiers, and now in Edit Mode, enable X-ray mode and select one frame. F3 to get the search panel and separate by selection. And let's repeat with the bottom frames. Select F3, separate by selection. Select this window frame. Back to Edit Mode, select this bottom face. Shift S, cursor to selected and origin to 3D cursor. Let's see. The problem now is that the animation went up here because we moved the origin. So what we could do, so we don't animate everything again, is to change the delta transform values. I have talked about the delta transforms in a past video, but basically they are transforms that are applied on top of the primary transforms. And now let's repeat with the other window frame. Let's copy this delta transform value and paste it to this other frame. And in this case, we also need to change the delta x value. And here we have it. Okay, now let's create a cascade effect. Select the top frame, go to the first keyframe and move 5 frames. Select this frame, A to select all the keyframes and Shift to move them. Move 5 frames, select this bottom frame, select all the keyframes and move them. And one last time, move 5 frames, select all the keyframes and move them. Let's take a look. Okay, it looks good, but now we need to hide the frames at the beginning. In the first keyframe, set a scale keyframe, and one frame before that one, scale to 0 and insert a scale keyframe. And repeat with the other frames. Set a scale keyframe, and one frame before, scale to 0 and set a scale keyframe. Let's do it one more time. Go to the first keyframe, insert a scale keyframe and one frame before, scale to 0 and set a scale keyframe. And one last time, insert a scale keyframe and one frame before that one, scale to 0 and insert a scale keyframe. Let's take one more look. I'm gonna tweak the set value for the bottom window frames. Let's copy this value and paste it on the other frame. And I think everything looks correct, so I'm gonna go keyframe by keyframe, so you can check the placement and the values for each one. And now we're gonna animate these double hung windows. Select the upper sash, and in frame 65 set a location keyframe, and in frame 60 move up on the Z-axis and set another location keyframe. 5 frames after frame 65, repeat the process for the lower sash. So in frame 70, set a location keyframe, and in frame 65 move up on the Z-axis and set a location keyframe. And now we have the two sashes going down, one after the other one. But now we need to hide them. So what we're gonna do is, let's select this upper sash again, Shift S, cursor to selected, and add a cube right here. Let's scale it down, place it on top of the window and scale it on the X-axis to match the width of the window. And remember to hide it in viewports and in renders. Select the upper sash and go to this frame where the windows are up, add a boolean modifier, and select our new cube as the boolean object, and now, as you can see, the upper sash has disappeared almost entirely because we need to adjust the size of the cube a bit. So let's go to edit mode and move this top face up on the Z-axis, hide it, and now the upper sash is gone. Now the problem is that when the window moves down, the cube appears again. So what we need to do is change the solver to fast. And now we need to repeat the process with the lower sash. Add another cube, scale it down, scale it on the X-axis and place it where the upper sash is. Make sure it doesn't touch the lower one, and add a boolean modifier. Set the new cube as the boolean object and remember to hide it in viewport and in renders, and change the solver to fast. Let's take a look. Okay, I need to scale it up on the Z-axis a bit. Let's see the animation, and here we have it. Now we need to repeat the process for the other windows. Let's show these two cubes, and I'm gonna take them to a new collection to keep my booleans there. Duplicate these two, escape, move them on the X-axis and place them where the other window is. And now let's select all the 4 cubes and again Shift T to duplicate, escape, and move them down on the Z-axis to match the bottom windows. Let's make sure they are in the right place. And let's apply the array modifiers since I'm gonna separate the windows to create a cascade effect later. In edit mode, let's enable X-ray mode, select one sash, F3 and separate by selection. And let's repeat with the other mesh. Select, separate, and one more time. Back to object mode, select this lower sash and change its boolean object to this cube. And we're gonna do the same with the lower sashes. Hide this collection and repeat the process with the upper sashes. So again, let's apply the array modifiers, and in edit mode, enable X-ray mode, select one sash and separate by selection. And now select this upper sash and change its Boolean object to this top cube. Select another upper sash and repeat. And one more time. Hide the Boolean objects and let's take a look at the final animation. Okay, now let's see where to place the keyframes. This window frame ends its animation in frame 61, so let's move 2 frames to frame 63. I need to move to another frame where both sashes are visible. Let's select both and move their keyframes to frame 63. And repeat. Let's see where this animation ends. Move 2 frames and move the keyframes. And one more time. Move 2 frames, select these 2 and move the keyframes. And one last time. Here I forgot to move 2 frames forward. Let's see. And let's take a look at each keyframe. Let's see all the upper sashes and all their keyframes are evenly apart, except for this one, which is the one where I forgot to move 2 frames, like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. Now let's see the bottom sashes all together, and again I forgot to move the 4th one 2 frames forward. You can move them if you like, so they are evenly apart. And now let's animate the pipe. This one is gonna be super simple. We're gonna animate the factor start, but you could animate the end instead if you wanted the pipe to start its animation from the opposite direction. Go to frame 60 and set a keyframe for the start, and in frame 50 set the factor to 1 and set a keyframe. Let's take a look. Let's see the placement of the keyframes. Now we've finished animating all the objects, it's time to play with the interpolation and daisy modes. I covered this subject in some of my past videos, but to sum up, we're gonna tweak the changes between some of the keyframes to come up with different effects like a bounce or overshoot effect, and we're gonna play with the acceleration of the movement. We're also gonna move some keyframes to find the right speed for each mesh. But before easing our animation, what we need to do is watch it in real time. Let's hit play. The frame rate turns red because the playback can't keep up with the desired frame rate, it lags basically. So what I like to do is render a preview, which is gonna be a low quality video that will render fast so we can see if our animation is too fast or if some keyframes need some touch-ups. But how to create a preview? Go to render settings, choose the format, make sure you are in the temporal folder so you don't overwrite other render. You could choose a different folder if you like to keep this preview saved. And make sure the range is right so you don't render extra frames. Let's choose the view we want to render. I'm gonna go with camera view, but what's interesting about rendering a preview is that whatever view you have in your viewport, that's what will get rendered. So if you move your view, this is what will get rendered as a preview. I like rendering my previews in solid mode, but you can choose a different one. And I always hide overlays and gizmos, otherwise they will appear in the preview. And if you select an object, it will appear in the preview as well. Now go to View, Render Animation. And it will start rendering. Wait for all the frames to get rendered.
A few moments later.
And now we can close this window. To watch it, go to Render, View Animation, and wait for the animation to load properly. And now we can see the frames here, and we can stop the animation with the spacebar or by clicking on the image. And now we can analyze our animation, what we like and what we would like to change. So looking at this, I see I like a little bounce effect for the border, I like an overshoot effect for the window as well. The chimneys look fine to me. The movement of the base looks a bit robotic for my taste, and I like a little easing for the pipe since it feels a bit fast and linear. Let's close it, and the good thing is that we can always go back to our preview as long as we don't render another one because we are in the temporary folder, and as long as we don't close the project. In that case, we'd have to re-render our preview. Let's start with the base. We're gonna work in the graph editor, and let's leave this tab visible. First, we need to delete the channels that are not animated, like this one that looks straight. Now, why do some channels have no animation? Because when you animate only one axis and set a keyframe like this, you get a keyframe for the 3 axes. The solution could be to delete those channels later, or create a keyframe for that specific axis here in the transform panel instead. It's not like it will ruin our animation to keep all the channels, but everything will be more organized and we'll have here elements in our timeline. Delete this one as well, and the rest looks fine. Let's see. Okay, I'd like to ease this final part of the animation to make the bounce look better. So lock all the channels but the set scale channel. And first I'm gonna copy this keyframe, select, Ctrl C, and in frame 15, Ctrl V. So now we have a keyframe as you can see. Let's move these 2 keyframes so the animation is a bit slower. Hold the middle mouse button to constrain the movement to the axis you are moving along, and now select these 3 keyframes. Set the interpolation mode to cubic, select these 2 keyframes, choose ease out, select these 2 and choose ease in. And now we have this curve. Let's see how it looks now. Let's unlock the channels, and I'm gonna go back to the timeline and let's move the building's keyframes. Make sure you didn't lock any channel, A to select all and She to move. For the border, first I'm gonna move the keyframes so the border doesn't appear before the building. Let's go to the graph editor. A to select all and choose back. And now all our curves have this shape. Let's see. Okay, so now we have a subtle overshoot effect. We could move this last keyframe. Remember to press the middle mouse button, since if the keyframe goes up or down in the graph editor, its value will change. For the roof, let's repeat what we've been doing. First, delete these channels, and now we're gonna create the same easing effect as we did for the base. Make sure the set scale channel is the only unlocked channel, and copy this keyframe. And now select these 3 keyframes and choose cubic. Select these 2 keyframes, choose ease out. Select these 2 and choose ease in. And now our bounce effect looks a bit more appealing. Let's continue with the pipes. Select this keyframe and move this handle. Remember to press the middle mouse button, and now move this handle to get this sort of shape. Now the animation starts briskly and slows down at the end. The animation feels a bit too fast, so let's move this final keyframe to frame 70. And I'm gonna do a touch-up on this handle. Now onto the window frames. First, delete the channels that look straight. Let's repeat with the other window frame. Expand these channel groups and repeat one more time. Repeat one more time. Now with the side windows frames, delete the straight channels. Okay, let's go back to this window frame and lock all the channels but the Y location channel. Here I want a subtle overshoot effect, so select these two keyframes and choose back. Let's unlock these channels and repeat with the other window frames. Lock all the channels but the Y location channel. Select these two keyframes and choose back. And unlock. Let's repeat. Lock all the channels but the Y location channel. Select these two keyframes and choose back. And unlock. And let's do it one more time. Lock all the channels but the Y location channel. Select these two keyframes and choose back. Let's move on to the window sashes. First, delete the channels that look straight. In this case, we should only keep the set location channel. Let's repeat. And let's do the same with this bottom window sash. Now add to select all the keyframes and choose back to get a bounce effect. Let's see. And let's repeat with this bottom window sash. Delete these two channels, select all and choose back. And repeat one more time. Delete. Select all and back. And repeat one last time. Delete. Select all and back. Let's take a look. I want all the sashes to go down a bit sooner, so select all of them. And let's see. Let's go to the timeline since it's easier to see the keyframes. Select all the keyframes and move them to frame 60. Now let's move on to the side window frames. Go to the graph editor and lock all the channels but the X location channel. Move this handle and now move this one. Let's see. Now select these keyframes and choose back. Unlock the other channels and repeat with the bottom window frame. Lock all the channels but the X location channel and move these handles again. I'm gonna unlock all the channels and move them so both frames appear at the same time. And now lock these channels again, select these two keyframes and you could choose back again, or maybe try something different. For the bottom frame I chose cubic instead, for example. And now we have two different curves with two different easing modes for each window frame. For the blinds we don't need to delete any channel, Lock all the channels but the set scale channel. Select these two keyframes, choose back. Let's see, the bounce is really subtle. I want to move the last keyframe to frame 103. Remember to press the middle mouse button when moving a keyframe in the graph editor. And now we can repeat the process with the bottom blind. Remember to unlock all the channels. Lock all the channels but the set scale channel. Select these two keyframes, choose back, and move the last keyframe to frame 103. Unlock all the channels. Let's go back to the timeline. I want the animation to start sooner, so select both blinds, A to select all the keyframes and move. Let's take a look. I also want to move all these keyframes. Let's see. Now lock the object transform channels on both blinds. Let's zoom in a bit and move the keyframes of the shape keys so the blinds start opening a bit sooner. And unlock. Now it's time for the door. Let's go back to the graph editor and delete the straight channels. I want to move this handle. And I'm gonna do the same with this one. Let's see. Now select these two keyframes and choose back. Move the last keyframe to frame 120. And let's have a look. Unlock the channels. And we've finished animating our building. We have only one more tutorial left to finish this series, where we're gonna add the final elements, light the scene, create the materials and render the animation. So I hope I see you there. Let me know if you like another series like this one, and as always, thanks for watching and see you in the next one. Bye!